All right, let's dive right into this critical topic. We're talking about understanding the connection between global warming and species extinction rates. Now, this is a topic that's very close to my heart, and I believe it should be vital to everyone, given the urgency and severity of what's at stake. So global warming, as we know, is the long-term heating of Earth's climate system due to human activities, primarily the emission of greenhouse gases.
Now you might ask, how does this relate to species extinction?
Well, let me explain. Species on Earth have evolved over millions of years, each adapting to lower specific environment and climate. The speed at which global warming is currently happening is unprecedented, and this rapid change is something many species struggle to adapt to. Picture this. Imagine you're a polar bear, right? You're used to hunting on sea ice, but with temperatures rising, the sea ice is melting, and your hunting grounds are disappearing. This means less food, and ultimately, a threat to your survival. This is happening right now. And it's not just polar bears. A study published in the journal Nature predicts that if global temperatures rise by 4.5 degrees Celsius, 16% of species, that's 1 in 6 species, could be at risk of extinction. This correlation is not a mere coincidence. It's a direct result of global warming altering habitats, disrupting ecosystems, and causing a rise in pest and disease outbreaks. So the correlation between global warming and species extinction rates is undeniable. And it's something we need to address urgently.
Because our actions today, they're shaping the future of our planet's biodiversity.
Moving on to our next critical topic, examining the impact of changing weather patterns on the migration of various animal species. Now, each year we witness an incredible phenomenon where species, big and small, embark on seasonal migrations. From the monarch butterflies fluttering thousands of miles to the great whale migrations across the oceans, these journeys are essential for their survival. But here's the catch. These migrations are intricately tied to the rhythm of the seasons. As the weather changes, it triggers the time for these animals to start their journeys.
So you might wonder, what happens if the weather patterns change due to global warming?
Well, unfortunately, the effects can be quite devastating. Let's take the example of birds. Many bird species rely on specific cues from the environment, like temperature and day length, to time their migration. But with global warming, these cues are getting mixed up. Spring is arriving earlier in many places, and birds that aren't adjusting their migration timings are finding less food when they arrive at their destinations. And it's not just birds. Warmer ocean temperatures are causing sea turtles to travel farther for nesting, and changes in sea ice are affecting the migration patterns of seals and polar bears. The domino effect of this disruption in migration patterns can be profound. It can lead to decreased survival rates, reduced population sizes, and in some cases, local extinctions. So the impact of changing weather patterns on animal migration is just one more way climate change is disrupting biodiversity. And it's clear that these effects are far-reaching and complex. The more we understand, the better equipped we'll be to protect these species and the vital roles they play in our ecosystems. Let's now turn our attention towards the blue expanse that covers over 70% of our planet, the oceans. We're going to analyze the effects of rising sea levels on marine biodiversity and coastal ecosystems. Due to global warming, the polar ice caps are melting at an alarming rate, causing sea levels to rise. Now, this isn't just about more water. rising sea levels can have significant impacts on marine and coastal biodiversity. Firstly, let's talk about the impact on coastal ecosystems. You've probably heard about coastal flooding, right? Unfortunately, this is becoming increasingly common and can cause saltwater intrusion into freshwater habitats, which can be devastating for plants and animals not adapted to saltwater. And then there's the issue of coastal erosion. As sea levels rise, the increased wave action can accelerate the erosion of beaches and dunes, which are critical habitats for many species. Just think about
the sea turtles whose nesting sites are being washed away.
now, let's dive underwater. Coral reefs, which are some of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet, are severely impacted by rising sea levels. Higher water levels can alter the amount of sunlight reaching the corals, affecting their ability to photosynthesize and grow. Unfortunately, the list of impacts is long, and these are just a few examples. As the sea level continues to rise, we're likely to see more severe impacts on marine biodiversity and coastal ecosystems. It's a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our planet and the far-reaching impacts of climate change. It's essential we understand these impacts not just for the sake of knowledge, but as a call to action to mitigate the effects of global warming and protect our precious biodiversity. Now, let's delve into another fascinating area, studying how climate change influences the distribution and behavior of different species. It's a topic that unfortunately doesn't get the attention it deserves, but it's crucial if we're going to understand the full scope of climate change impacts. This is a distribution object to information to the resources for species as a spring guide. Locate that is required by their new full seas and Macovire take place. This is dictated by a range of factors, including temperature, precipitation, food availability, and many others. And as you might guess, climate change has a significant role to play here. Global warming is causing some habitats to become unsuitable for the species that live there. For example, mountain-dwelling species are being forced to move higher up the mountains to find cooler temperatures, but they're running out of room at the top. And in the Arctic, animals like the polar bear are losing their icy homes due to rising temperatures.
But it's not just about where species live, it's also about how they behave.
Changes in climate can affect hibernation, reproduction, and feeding habits. For instance, warmer temperatures are causing some species to breed earlier in the year, which can lead to mismatches between the timing of young animals being born and their food being available. And here's another curveball: the introduction of new species. As some areas become warmer, they can become invaded by non-native species, better adapted to the new conditions, leading to competition, and sometimes even local extinction of native species. From where species live to how they behave, climate change has far-reaching implications. It's a complex web, and every thread we pull reveals more about the intricate and delicate balance of our planet's biodiversity. As we continue to disrupt this balance, we must also strive to better understand it and do everything we can to mitigate the impacts. All right, we're now going to explore the potential consequences of climate change on food chains and overall ecosystem balance. This is a huge topic with a lot to cover, but it's fundamental to understanding the broader effects of climate change on biodiversity. Now, if you're not familiar, a food chain is a simple way to illustrate who eats who in an ecosystem. At the bottom, we have plants, then herbivores that eat the plants, then predators that eat the herbivores, and so on. Each link in the chain is essential to maintaining the overall balance of the ecosystem. But with climate change, these food chains can be disrupted. For instance, changes in temperature can affect plant growth, which can then impact the herbivores that rely on them for food. And if those herbivores struggle, then the predators that eat them will too, and so on up the chain. Changes in climate can also affect the timing of various natural events, creating what's known as a phenological mismatch. For example, if flowers bloom earlier because of warmer temperatures, but bees don't adjust their emergence, it can lead to less effective pollination, affecting plant reproduction and subsequently the entire food chain. And remember, in an ecosystem, everything is connected. Changes that affect one species can ripple out to impact many others. This could lead to altered community dynamics, changes in species diversity, and even ecosystem collapse in extreme cases. In essence, climate change has the potential to disrupt the delicate balance of our ecosystems, threatening biodiversity on a grand scale. Understanding these potential consequences is not just an academic exercise. It's vital for shaping policies and strategies to protect our planet's valuable ecosystems and the diverse life they support.